The Calgary Flames certainly have their work cut out for them Friday night against the Minnesota Wild as two of their most important players return to the lineup.
You're Locked On Flames, your daily podcast on the Calgary Flames. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 1000th episode of Locked On Flames. As always, I am your host, Belmosto, and thank you so much for making Locked On Flames part of your day. Today, we are going to be talking about yet another hurdle the Flames need to overcome as they look to snatch the wild card spot from the Minnesota Wild, as well as the Flames nominee for the Bill Masterson Trophy and just how significant this is for Justin Kirkland. And we're going to wrap up the show chatting about the game against Anaheim tonight and just some questionable decisions being made, but it must be a day that ends in Y. Am I right? Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Flames wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We are here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your Calgary Flames every day. And let's jump right into this. Kiril, Kaprizov, and Joel Eriksson are expected to return to the Wild's lineup on tonight, Wednesday night. And do you know who comes to town on Friday in a game that is one of their most important games of the season, if not like the most important after that game against Vancouver? The Minnesota Wild. This is big because Joel Eriksson has missed 21 games after playing one game for Sweden in the Four Nations face-off, and he was shut down after a usage injury, never really disclosed as to what it was, but he did miss 21 games and is, again, expected to come back tonight. And Kiril Kaprizov has had a crazy season because I remember early in the season, he was injured and then he came back for a little bit and then had to have back surgery and then missed time again and has not played in 28 games. So both players have missed a significant chunk of time dealing with injuries and working their way back as the Wild look to cling and hold on to that second wild card spot. They were sitting pretty at number one, and then St. Louis decided to go on a tear as they decided to spiral out of control, and here they are. The Flames are just 4 points out with one game in hand, but considering last game against the San Jose Sharks and how exhausted they looked, or how the team danced circles around them and they weren't able to score until late in the third period, I do have some concern. And one thing that Minnesota has, I think, obviously more than the Flames, is that elite scoring talent. It's obvious. It's right there. And they have depth as well as goaltending and pretty solid defense. The Flames have Dustin Wolf. And I don't mean that disparagingly against the forwards or against the defensive group, but we know that players from both groups are banged up. Rasmus Andersson, again, did not take part in morning skate. So, why? We're going to talk more about that later. But we have these guys hanging on by a thread. And they're getting two of their best players back, well rested and recovered. So I do have to have a little bit more concern. Not that I thought that the Flames were going to go into this game and just walk all over the Wild, but I certainly didn't expect it to be this level of challenging. So what can the Flames do? combat their physicality, I would say. The Wild are a very physical team. Marcus Foligno loves a good fight. He's not with the team anymore, but last time these two teams met, Jeremy Lauzon gave Kevin Ball a concussion and only got a 2-minute minor for a very clear boarding call that probably should have been a game misconduct. I worry about how emotions will play into this. Martin Pospisil is on the fourth line, or was skating on the fourth line tonight. Obviously, that doesn't mean that's what it's going to be for Friday, but he was all banged up Monday night against the Sharks too, after a hard-fought puck battle, and sent him into the boards funny. So are we just going to see the levels of frustration kind of boil over? Especially if they go down early and they have to come from behind. The Flames do love a good comeback, but it's a lot harder to do that when Marc-Andre Fleury's in net and you don't necessarily have sharpshooters. So we're just going to have to keep our fingers crossed. And I think that while the Wild do have that level of physicality, any hit that Adam Klapka throws is going to look like a big hit. So maybe the Flames do have that on their side. I guess, Ryan Lomberg throw a few punches too, if it comes down to it. But I do feel like Minnesota is just a very physical hockey team. And you can definitely tune into Locked On Wild with Seth Tupal. He is a great podcast host. He is very informed, very smart, and just in-depth analysis if you want to check out Locked On Wild ahead of this matchup. But coming up next, we are going to talk about Justin Kirkland and his nomination for the Masterson Award and what he had to overcome to get here, just to have to overcome it again. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I love the no shells because they are a perfect grab and go snack. I keep them on my desk at work for when I have a spare 30 seconds in between customers to put fuel in my tank. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Thanks everyone for hanging out with me today on Locked On Flames. Make sure you're following me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Belmosto. The Bill Masterson Trophy is one that I think a lot of players they probably hope they don't win it, because, or even get a nomination for it, because it means you had to overcome something. And the less problems, the better, I would say. But this trophy is something that I admire a lot, because these players do deal with a lot of things, whether it's, off ice stuff or on ice injuries or whatever the case may be. And the Bill Masterson Memorial Trophy is awarded annually to the hockey player who best exemplifies the qualities of perseverance, sportsmanship, and dedication to ice hockey. And this year, the Flames nominee is Justin Kirkland. I completely forgot about what he went through to get here. His wife, Madison, I'm going to read her statement, I guess. It's honestly a miracle he survived the near-death car accident, let alone fight his way back to the NHL. It's hard to put into words his daily determination. He's a fighter beyond belief. The surgeon said if the 14 breaks in his nose was 2 millimeters closer to his brain, he would have been paralyzed from the head down or declared brain dead. On his way to play his first few NHL games for the Anaheim Ducks, he was involved in a devastating crash on the highway. Immediately after the game, Justin gets a special visitor at the hospital, still wearing his game day suit. Head coach Dallas Eakins walks in and stayed with him for quite some time. I'll always be grateful to his love and support on that day, to both of us, which has continued to this day. It is an understatement to say that Justin has fought daily and continues to fight to play hockey. For him, there was no if, it was I will. He even asked me to bring his laptop to the hospital so we could watch his teammates after surgery. Then to fight his way back to be able to play hockey, achieving his childhood dream, scoring his first NHL goal for the Flames in the Battle of Alberta, something is just truly incredible. It was impossible for him to stop smiling, continuing the block shots with a smile on his face, wanting more, just the happiest to be able to play the sport he loves. Now, pushing his way through an ACL injury, he's more determined than ever, a true testament to anyone to never give up on your dream, no matter the challenges and adversity. When he came home, he was shaking as he told me he was nominated for the Bill Masterson Trophy. Nobody realizes exactly what he's been through and continued to fight, and nobody realized exactly what he's been through and the continued fight and perseverance in him. He's the easiest guy in the world to root for, and I couldn't be more proud. I feel like crying after reading. Justin Kirkland, I don't like saying I hope someone wins, because it's kind of oh, this is very traumatic, so you should win. I do think Sean Monahan is going to receive a nomination for Columbus, and that might obviously, but I do feel like Justin Kirkland, even if it's not this trophy, this is a story that players need to remember, but also us as human beings. We can do anything. And Justin Kirkland fought his way back after surgeries and head trauma. Hockey was on the back burner for a little bit, but then after, the recovery started, he fought his way back. He made it happen. And for him to, kind of have that Kirkland signature with the shootout, and for him to do that with the Wranglers a few times, and then to come up to the NHL and do it, and then score his first goal in the Battle of Alberta, just really special. And it's one of those full circle moments. And yes, the season-ending ACL injury back in, November, I think, was just a blow. It was a devastating blow to him, because they had just lost Anthony Mantha to an ACL injury as well, in a non-contact injuries, which are the worst. And they're both still around the team. They've had their surgery. If you watch the Flames, whether it's the chase or they'll post post-game videos from the locker room, Kirkland's there with a smile on his face, happy for his teammates, rooting for his teammates, and staying immersed in the Flames culture and the community, the dedication to be able to sit there and watch basically an entire season of hockey, knowing you should be out there or could be out there, and you're just not. That is mental discipline. And I think, honestly, just the fact that he had just played his first few NHL games when that accident happened, 8 years after being drafted by Nashville, to experience a horrific near-death accident would be enough for most people to pack it up. Why would you already suffered enough head trauma. Why would you go back to hockey where you could potentially experience more? sort of situation. But the fact that he fought through that to get back to the NHL is incredible. And then for him to score his first NHL goal and shortly thereafter, end up needing season-ending surgery, it's a bummer. It's hurdle after hurdle after hurdle. And it's one of those things that I think really exemplifies what a Flame is. Someone that is not going to give up. They're not taking no for an answer. And it's not if, it's I will. He is making the best lemonade out of the stinkiest, tartest lemons one could get their hands on. And that is really beautiful. And I'm very happy for the Kirklands. And I'm glad that he still gets to hang around the team. And I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he does re-sign here. I think the Flames will re-sign Anthony Mantha too, which we'll talk about later in the offseason. But just an incredible story and feat. So coming up next, we are going to wrap up the show, the 1000th episode of Locked On Flames, with a look at tonight's game against the Anaheim Ducks and maybe some sort of rationale behind Rasmus Andersson missing practice but continuing to play games.
Do you have trouble sleeping? If so, you're not alone. That used to be me, lacking rest, tossing and turning. I was late for meetings. I never felt like myself. That's until I found Bare Mattress. Bare Mattress and their sleep recovery technology helped me fall asleep faster as well as enjoy deeper sleeps. I felt like myself again, and you can too. Bare Mattress knows that every sleeper is different. That's why they have their sleep quiz on their website that finds you your perfect match. As a side sleeper, I matched with the Elite Hybrid mattress, and I've been telling everyone in my life they have to try Bare Mattress risk-free. You can sleep on your Bare Mattress up to 120 nights, and if you're not getting the best sleep of your life, you can get it refunded. They'll pick it up with absolutely no hassle. So go to bearmattress.com and use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout to get 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL for 40% off site-wide. Bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
Thanks everyone for hanging out with me today on this fine episode of Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. And there will be boots on the ground in Calgary ahead of this final homestand for the Flames. But before we can enjoy the last few home games, we have to make one more stop in Anaheim as the Flames look to complete the season sweep. I do not want to see another game like we saw against San Jose. You can't do it. You can't be that outplayed by, again, another bad team. You have to figure out a way to score. It looks like Ville Husso is in net for them as well tonight. So a little better than Dostal. So we'll take it. But my biggest issue here is not, I don't care that Adam Klapka is on the top line and Pospisil's on the fourth line. Honestly, we've seen these lines change in game so many times that I don't necessarily think there is too much to read into. But Klapka has definitely deserved that promotion, especially, after last game. And Pospisil and him flipped spots. And Pospisil had that tough collision in a puck battle against San Jose where it looked like I couldn't tell if it was his shoulder or his elbow or his wrist, but he needed help getting off the ice. And it was in agonizing pain, but came back like 5 minutes later and was on the bench. And he's not out of morning skate. So I would assume everything's good to go. But the one thing, the biggest issue I have right here, the glaring issue that I think everyone needs to acknowledge and just look at it. Rasmus Andersson is missing yet another morning skate. Miramonov is his placeholder in practice once again. He can't go out for morning skate. And you want me to believe he's healthy enough to be playing? Come on. And I saw people saying, like, you shouldn't question the coaching decisions. You shouldn't question the lineup. You shouldn't read too much into this. It's not reading too much into something when it is right in your face. Right there. And it drives me crazy. If Rasmus Andersson is so hurt that skating for an extra 20 minutes will throw off his game time performance, maybe he doesn't need to be playing. May I introduce you to Zane Parekh, who you recalled? I'm not saying he needs to slot up on, that first pairing with Kevin Ball, but he would certainly be a better option than Jake Bean. Sorry, Jake Bean's going to catch strays on this podcast. He has, not that defensemen have to obviously put up points, but he has not had a point since like the end of January. It is April. And I think that he's not a good defenseman. He's not a good defenseman. He's fine for what the Flames needed to patch the hole in the season. But when you have players in your system, especially when you expect to be bad, that could fill those roles and get crucial development minutes and time on the ice, maybe you should play those guys more. Maybe you shouldn't be looking to hire or sign the CEO's son. I get it. Calgary kid, a Nepo baby, and truly the finest form. But if these games really mattered to this team, they would get serious and make some serious adjustments. I feel like I do think that Matt Coronado is going to score tonight. If I had to pick a goal scorer, I would pick Coronado. And maybe Rasmus Andersson, just to prove everyone wrong again. But the biggest thing heading into this game is you cannot play like you played against San Jose. You need to have that level of energy and intensity through all 60 minutes. You need to play every single shift at 100%. Because teams will be able to exploit your weaknesses. And we've seen that. The penalty kill has been great. Power play's been fine. I want to see Morgan Frost or Joel Farabee do something. It looked like Morgan Frost had the goal against San Jose, but it ended up being credited to Huberdeau. So, but he had the primary assist. So, that's still something. But I just really need to see life from this lineup because I wasn't convinced that this team was going to make the playoffs to begin with, but after Monday's performance, I'm not so sure that's ever it's just, I think after the game against the Kings next week, it's just going to be exit meetings. We find out this one has a broken collarbone. Rasmus Andersson's been holding on with a piece of floss. This one's had a concussion. Like, the end of season injuries are going to come out too. And part of me hopes that we find maybe we get some good quotes from Conroy about the direction he plans to take this summer, because this team is nowhere near ready to compete. But thank you all so much for hanging out with me today on the 1000th episode of Locked On Flames. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. We're here for you Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, your team every day. And I just want to, again, say thank you so much. Whether you are a returning listener, if this is your first time listening, this show is so important to me. Even though I'm not in Calgary, this show is my baby. I'm so excited to be recording my first Locked On Flames in Calgary tomorrow. And, I'm very grateful for what this show has given me, and thank you all for being part of it. But until tomorrow, where we will do a game recap, I will see you later.